Triggered. Why do I self-sabotage? Why can't I stick to my habits?
Babes, it's time for you to realize that your subconscious mind is running the show, and there are beliefs ingrained in you that you reenact in a self fulfilling prophecy. Well, hello there. Didn't mean to call y'all out in the beginning, but it's about time you realize. So, today we're gonna talk about what are limiting beliefs, how to identify your core beliefs, and actually understand where they come from and how they come up for you. This video is the first part, and next time I will help you learn how to change them and imprint better beliefs. So, first things first. What is a limiting belief? A limiting belief is a core belief you hold in your subconscious mind about yourself, people, or life as a whole. This belief is hindering you and limiting you and your potential to live a good life in some type of way. An example of a core belief about yourself is I am a bad person or I am broken. People are not trustworthy is an example of a limiting belief about people. And money only comes from hard work is an example of a limiting belief you have about how the world works. Hopefully, you can see how having these beliefs can affect your confidence, self worth, relationships, and finances, and other areas of your life. Now, we need to work on identifying what are our core beliefs. Here are some ways that help me identify a lot of my limiting beliefs. First, you can go online and just type in general or common limiting beliefs. You can also Google limiting beliefs about money, limiting beliefs about friendships, or any other area of your life you're interested in. I will leave a link for a list of general limiting beliefs you could have about yourself because it's a good start. Try to look at the list and really feel within you. Is there a part of me that thinks that? Or are there times when things get hard that you actually believe some of these to be true? You can keep track of all your limiting beliefs in your notes app. Another way that I found that works is looking at your behavior. So this way relies on implementing shadow work. And if y'all would love to see an in-depth video on shadow work, let me know. But basically, here are some steps you can practice in a journal. First, try to see what areas in your life are not working. For example, any negative habits or patterns, like what kind of unhealthy or maladaptive coping mechanisms you have, also any icks you have, or like write down any situations where you were self sabotaging or triggered. Now, we are going to try to understand why things are not working out or why you act in a certain way that doesn't feel aligned with who you are or want to be, or why you feel the way you feel about a situation. So, in my opinion, fear is usually the underlying emotion or driver towards these unpleasant ways of acting. Honestly, uncovering fears needs a whole separate video or videos, not gonna lie. But a good place to start is to ask what emotions, situations, pain am I trying to run from? What am I avoiding? And how do they remind me of unpleasant childhood experiences or general past experiences? It doesn't have to be childhood. Just putting it out there, I can't give y'all a step by step guide on how to journal effectively because every person is different and every writing session is different. But the most important thing, I believe, is to always be welcoming and curious. Don't shame yourself into a specific answer and always ask why until you run out of whys to ask. Of course, when doing work on limiting beliefs, there are gonna be a lot of conscious and unconscious shame coming up. Don't worry about it. With practice, you will get better at working through these unpleasant emotions. And lastly, I want to say before we go on to the next step is let things happen. As life goes on, you will have experiences that trigger you or situations where things don't work out in your favor. And you will also discover that by journaling and doing shadow work that you are really building that self-awareness muscle. So you don't always need to force yourself to come up with explanations for everything happening. Over time, it will get easier to get into the roots of things So just enjoy life for a while. As long as you have found one limiting belief to work with, we can move on to the next step. Now we're gonna try to get to know our limiting belief and how it shows up in our body, mind, etc. A personal example of a limiting belief which I had is something is wrong with me. I am not a normal person like the rest. Usually, when you look up limiting beliefs online, you'll find them written as one liners, but you don't have to do that because we aren't trying to be general here. Just describe the belief until you feel like you've encompassed every aspect of it. The more accurate you are at describing it, the easier it is to change the belief. Moving on, I believe it is important to understand how it shows up in the body. So take a moment to write about how it feels. Now that you know your limiting belief, you wrote it down, you close your eyes for a moment to sit with those words. How does it feel? Take your time with that. Next, we are going to see how it shows up in your mind. So, you're gonna try to look at situations or triggers that this belief was an underlying cause of and ask what kind of thoughts were going in my head and what negative self talk was coming up for you. Now that we understand how this belief shows up in the present, we will start looking into the past. Where did this belief come from? Some questions that might be helpful to ask are: what are my earliest memories of this fear? And when was the last time I felt this so strongly? And me having this fear or this limiting belief makes sense given my background, upbringing, negative experiences, etc., etc. Or you can ask, how would someone develop this belief? To give it like a sciencey experiment kind of vibe, and it also allows you to detach from the answer. You might need to ask multiple times and dig deeper to get a satisfactory answer. Now, the next one is an additional step I like to implement that is related to parts work. Basically, you have to see yourself as different parts. For example, there's the protector, the ego, the inner child, etc., etc. And you try to identify which part of you holds this belief and try to communicate and have a non-judgmental conversation with that part of you. Alicia Gogan was the one who introduced me to parts work, so I will link to her channel. And there's also a book on parts work that you can all read to understand how it works. Link in the description. Let me know if y'all are interested in me talking about parts work. So here's a written summary of the steps as a little journaling guide. Remember, this guide is not a hard and fast rule. It's just what works for me. The questions or steps I give you are just prompts to help you come up with an answer. If you find your mind wandering elsewhere to other territories, let it be. Your mind is just having fun exploring, so just let things be, let things happen, and be curious about the results. If there are questions you can't answer or don't feel like answering, you don't have to do it. Just do what feels good to you and trust yourself through the process. And that's all, my loves. Let me know if this guide was helpful and any modifications you'd like to make to the guide so we could all grow together. If there are any videos you'd like to see from me, comment them down below. And I just want to say I'm so glad to know that we are all on this journey together, working on ourselves and nurturing our very beautiful souls. So this is all for today. Make sure to enjoy life while leveling up. You're not stuck because of your beliefs. As long as there is even an iota of growth, then you're doing great. See you in part 2, where we work on changing the beliefs. Bye bye.